welcome everybody to day 7 of Video a Day Debruary. Today we have Bracha Goetz. She is an Harvard-educated wellness author of 38 children's books. Can you believe it? She says they help children's souls shine. She's the author of the book that we'll be discussing tonight as well, called Searching for God in the Garbage. It's a memoir, basically kind of chronicling her life from girlhood through adulthood, and some of the perspectives, I think, even though she was raised, as it's in the Jewish culture, what she went through and a lot of her thoughts and everything are universal. And I've seen the same thing in African American women. So it should be a very interesting discussion. Her battle during this time was to understand herself and her role as a woman and her place in the world versus the box everybody tried to put her in. And food, it became a part of that, food and food addiction. So she's going to be here tonight to share with you what she learned and how we can all get past our attachments to food, better understand ourselves and our reasons for doing the things that we do, and learn how to live joyfully. Hey, Bracha. You have to
I am
unmute yourself.
muted. There we
Okay.
go. There we go. Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
So let's get started. Tell me, okay, first of all, let's talk about the title of this book.
Okay,
Because
great.
I was like, what? How did you come up with that?
Yeah, searching for God in the garbage. Yes. Well, that's really where I had to search. It's really true that in many places, God is being tossed away into the garbage. It's almost, I hate to say this, it's almost become a dirty word. Like, you can't say it with many people. It's really the case. You can't even talk about God. And I had to bring it back into my life. I didn't learn that I was like a spiritual being when I was growing up. I didn't learn that I was a soul. I didn't understand these kind of things. That's what was missing from my life, and I had to search for it. And it really was a search through the garbage. In the book, you find out that I was literally searching through the garbage, but it's also a metaphor too. It's meant in every sense of the word. Yeah.
That's unbelievable. So, what's the overall message that, something inspired you to put all these words on paper? What inspired you to create it in book form?
Yeah, well, okay, so I'm a children's book writer, and I've been writing books for children for years, spiritual children's books. That's what's different about them. I, I, I want children to understand what I didn't know, that they are spiritual beings. So like for instance, well, I'm going off track, but I'm telling you that, like, there's a book, The Invisible Book. It talks about how we believe in gravity. We believe in electromagnetism. Why do magnets pick up paper clips? And we believe in feelings, and we believe in thoughts, and these are all invisible. So it's not that hard to believe that we are invisibly spiritual beings. I try to make this clear that we accept all these other invisible things, and so we are also spiritual forces. All of these things are powerful forces in our universe, and we see their effects even though we can't see them. So we see the effects of being spiritual beings as well. And I went completely off course of what you asked me.
That's okay, but I wanted to, kind of get
Yeah.
an idea of, how you got to where you
Oh
were,
yeah.
and so
Oh
that's
yeah.
a
Oh
good.
yeah. Oh, so this book, it wrote itself because I like to write short books. This book, I took like my poems, my diaries from when I was age 12, and then my journals. I put them all together and I filled in the missing pieces. It's from age 12 to 32. And it explains how the food addictions developed and how I overcame them. And through putting the book together, it was like it was like therapy. It's kind of like a psychological mystery because at the end of the book, I understand how I was able to recover from the food addictions. And it's through nourishing my hungry soul. Oh, don't
Okay.
say it.
Yeah.
Don't say
Well, we want to, kind of do this in order.
it. Okay.
Let's start first by defining what a food addiction is, because what someone out there listening might think it is versus how you meant it. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Okay. Excellent. Food addiction is well, like the first step of the 12 steps. It's when you acknowledge that your life has become unmanageable. My life had become unmanageable. In other words, I was spending way too much time and energy involved with food,
Hmm.
either not eating it or eating it, either dieting like crazy or binging. It had nothing to do with my physical hunger. I was eating for all the wrong reasons. And so it overtook my life. Even though I had gone to Harvard, like with these addictions, they really got even worse while I was at Harvard. And even though after that I went to medical school, that's when it got the worst of all. So here I looked really successful on the outside. Inside I was a mess. I was I was being ruled. I was enslaved to these addictions.
What makes people become addicted to food? I mean, what are okay, you say we're looking for something for our soul, but since we don't really know that, what kind of things lead up to a food addiction? What behaviors or thoughts make us, decide that that's the solution to our problem?
What addictions develop because they bring a person temporary comfort. They bring a person comfort when what a person really wants is more pleasure in their life. And like if you ever watched My 600-Pound Life, these documentaries, the people on it say, I'm eating, they keep eating. Why are they stuffing their faces continuously? Why? Because that's the only thing that brings them happiness now. This is the only pleasure they have. So they just keep it going. It brings us a temporary fleeting pleasure. When you're feeling a lot of misery and you're not getting enough other pleasures in your life, it brings you immediate pleasure. So why not? And in fact, as you're experiencing that pleasure, you want it to keep lasting. So you just keep eating. That keeps the pleasure lasting
Mm.
because it only lasts as long as it's in your mouth. It's a really fleeting pleasure. And after the few seconds that it's gone down the esophagus, it's no longer bringing you pleasure. You just keep going, just keep shoveling it in. And as if you eat 75 more pieces or 75 more spoonfuls of ice cream, you're going to finally have enough. It's going to finally fill you. It will never fill you because it's a different kind of hunger. It's a different inner emptiness. So this is never going to fill a person. And that's what I'm trying to share with people. It's
Is
a,
this
it's
what
a,
you call that? This related to what you refer to as the pleasure ladder?
Yeah, so it's a spiritual hunger that we have. How do we fill it? We fill it with pleasure. And what I want to share is the pleasure ladder shows you that there's an abundance of pleasure available to everybody. We get stuck on the lowest level of pleasure, and food is one of those lowest levels of pleasure. And so if we don't realize there's so many more pleasures available to us every moment, and we have the power to bring them into our lives. It's not dependent on anybody else. So if you want me to explain it about the pleasure ladder, the
Yes,
first
but
level, yeah, the first level are all the physical, sensual pleasures that were created for us to enjoy. And the five levels of pleasure, they correspond to the five levels of the human soul. So the lowest level of the human soul is the part of the soul that attaches to the body. So when we nourish our body with these natural things that were designed to uplift our body, they were also designed to uplift our soul. Like food, it was designed to uplift us. When we eat these natural foods, I was explaining this, the food it becomes beautiful, the most attractive color when it's ripe on the tree. That's when it's telling us, I'm ready, please eat me now, because I am ready and bright and beautiful. Before this, it has a dull color. And oh, I'm just going to explain this too. I wrote a children's book about this. This is Hashem's candy store. A nut, it comes in this hard shell, and a potato, they are never brightly colored. Why? Because they are telling us, do not eat me right away. Don't bite in. You need a nutcracker first to open the nut, and you have to cook the potato. Do not want to eat me right away. But these, they're brightly colored. Come and eat me. Just pick me off the tree. In fact, my son, he has these trees in his yard, and I go out for breakfast. This is how I go out for breakfast. I just pick them off the tree. I sit outside and eat breakfast. I love it. Like, that's how we're meant to eat. Food was designed to be a pleasure to look at, a pleasure to taste, and even to have a beautiful aroma. So it was designed that when we eat it, it uplifts our soul as well. We feel gratitude to the Creator who designed these amazing foods for us that nourish our bodies and our souls at the same time. So that's one thing, is food. It was designed to be a pleasure. That's why we get stuck on it. But the food we really get stuck on, how many oranges can a person eat really? Like, you're just not going to overeat a bag of oranges,
The most
right?
I've ever eaten at a time is two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a pizza, you could go through a whole pizza. You could people can eat a whole big family bag of potato chips when they're binging, or a whole tub of ice cream, a whole box of chocolate chip cookies. These are processed foods. They are actually created to be addictive. They're not designed by the Creator to nourish our bodies as well as our souls. So these are the things that are addictive, and they don't fill us with that sense of gratitude to the Creator as we get when we eat something like this and we mindfully eat it and we're filled. It uplifts our soul and our body. So these are the things on the lowest level. Music is another example of a physical thing that uplifts our soul, and also dance, movement, yoga, any of these things. We our bodies were designed to move, and when we move them, it also uplifts our soul. The endorphins start flowing, and we are filled with joy. Being in nature, there's another example of a physical thing we could do to uplift our soul. So, for instance, let's say we're overeating some junk food, and we say, is it my body that's hungry or my soul? When we recognize that, then we can choose to do something else to fill that inner emptiness. We can turn on music, start dancing, go outside, feel the brisk cold air on our faces. We can yeah, like I said, tone our music, just do a different natural thing that will bring you pleasure. Or you can go up the pleasure ladder. On the second level is love. And according to this definition, which is a unique definition that I learned from this rabbi who taught me the pleasure ladder that opened up my life, Rabbi Weinberg, love is when you focus on the virtues of another. And that is not dependent on anybody else. It doesn't mean sitting by the phone waiting for someone to call you. You can do this any moment of your life. You can focus on what you appreciate about someone else. So let's say again, you're just stuffing your face and eating. You can call or text somebody, someone that might be lonely, especially an elderly person. You can leave them a sweet message. If you don't get them on the phone, tell them what you appreciate about them. You'll be left with a feeling. You won't feel like finishing the box of cookies anymore.
Oh,
You'll,
that's interesting.
you feel uplifted. You feel really different. And so let's say, okay, now let's go up the ladder. The third level is meaning, doing something meaningful. Um, when you do something meaningful, it uplifts your soul right away. You're in a whole different place. And I shared example that I was on another show and I was telling the podcast host about this, and he said, yeah, he was plowing through a box of pizza one day, and there was a knock on his door, and his neighbor needed his help. When he came back from helping his neighbor, he didn't feel like eating the pizza anymore. He felt so good that he helped his neighbor. I'm like, I'm putting this away for another time, because right away you feel it adds connection to your life. When a person is overeating, they feel alienated, they feel lonely, they feel stressed, they feel anxious, they feel bored. It's a feeling of separation. When you bring pleasure into your life, you feel connection, even if it's just with an orange. But even through the orange, you're connecting to source. Or on the second level, you're connecting to another being, whether it's a pet that you appreciate or another person. You're connecting again outside with meaning. You're connecting to your larger community, doing something for somebody else. And the fourth level is creativity. That's when you tap into the creative flow of the universe and you bring a part of yourself into the world. You are sharing a unique part of yourself that makes you you with the world. And you know how when you're being creative, you don't feel like eating, you don't even feel like sleeping. You're in
That's true.
yeah, yep, you're in the zone of like just creating. So that's the fourth level. Each of these levels is a more lasting pleasure and brings more and more connection. So the highest level of all, what's left is transcendence. When we connect with everybody, with everyone, we see how we're all connected. We see that we really all unified. We all have so much in common. We're all connected to one source. And it's like the veil is lifted, the veil of separation is lifted, and we can see with clarity how much we all are connected. Like we can appreciate them. We breathe out, and the plants take in what we breathe out, and the plants give us what we need. How it's all an
Everything's
interrelationship.
connected. Well,
Yes,
you know what, Braca? Like this time of year, we're still the early part of the year, and a lot of people made these New Year's resolutions, right? Oh, I'm gonna. Well, I guess they can't go to the gym because of COVID, but I'm gonna start exercising, and I'm gonna lose weight. I'm gonna lose 50 pounds. Of course, that sounds good, but the actual execution of it comes square up against some of the things that you just mentioned. So, if a person is struggling, they do need to lose weight for health or whatever reasons, and they're struggling with it. What would you suggest that they do to start, really becoming more aware of other options for this, for this pleasure that they're seeking?
exactly. I mean, everyone that's tried to lose weight has probably been on so many diets. It's called yo-yo dieting, as you know. You lose the weight, but then you gain it all back. How long can a person restrict themselves? That's why this is the opposite idea. It's not about restriction. It's about adding more joy to your life. That's all it is. So when you become aware that you're overeating, you realize just listening to this podcast right now, you're you're halfway there, because now you understand that all you need is more joy in your life, and you have the power to bring it into your life. It's not dependent on anybody else. You can do it. You just need to recognize that it's not that you need more food. You say, I'm hungry. You're hungry, but you're hungry for joy. So bring in the pleasure. Turn on the music, start dancing. I've been doing Zooms at home, exercising from home. I actually love it. I don't even know if I'm going to go back to the gym when I'm allowed to. But I mean, this is so much fun to do these classes at home. I've got all new friends that I just know from online that we all come to these classes, and I'm doing crazy classes I never did before, but just because they're available, these crazy dance classes I'm learning. Oh, I'm telling you, when I started them months ago, I was so out of breath, and now I could totally do them. I like, really, it's unbelievable. And yoga, and doing just, I don't know, dance steps I never knew. It's just really funny. I do, oh my gosh, I do these karate things that I never learned before. I mean, it's opened up a whole new world of stuff. So don't think if you're stuck at home, that's the problem. There's so many videos, free YouTube videos that you could watch and do along with, it's really, it's infinite amount of stuff that you could do while you're at home, or
Right.
just turn on the music and dance. I mean, it's always available.
One thing
Dancing.
I wanted to ask you though
Yeah.
is like, okay, so a lot of women seem like the joy is trained out of them. And let me give you some examples. I pulled a couple from your book. You told a story about how one day you were chased home by a group of little nasty boys saying
Mm-hmm.
vulgar things to you, and
Mm-hmm.
how terrified you were as a young girl,
Right.
for your safety and everything else. So many of us go through that and worse. Okay,
Right.
then we have the thing you mentioned, even in school with an adult teacher, this teacher trying to put you in a box of what you had better do, or you're going to fail the class and all the stuff about a home ec class. And having been through something similar, I remember how beat down and I don't know, it was a very spirit breaking, experience for me. So I could so identify with what you were talking about. So if you have a woman who's had, those kinds of experiences and even worse,
Yes.
it's a struggle to tune in to
Yes.
joy
Good
and to
point.
figure out how, do I have the right to feel good?
Yes.
Everybody's been telling me my whole life I have to do
Yes.
this and I can't do that and that.
Yes.
So, I mean, do you have any tips for dealing with that kind of issue?
I am so glad that you brought this up. Thank you. Because in addition to nourishing our hungry souls, a lot of us, like the title of my book, there's a lot of garbage piled up on top of us from trauma, from abuse, from neglect that we've been through. And especially in childhood, if a person has gone through these things in childhood, the garbage is piled really high. And it's very hard for our souls, which are still shining in there. It's hard to see it, it's hard to feel it. There is an eternal light that soul is still shining, but you can't get to it. Even though you need to nourish it at the same time as the garbage is being removed, you need to be doing both. Many times people need therapeutic intervention in addition to nourishing their souls in order to get their souls shining again. Anyone who's been knocked down, the garbage has been piled, the clouds are covering your shine, and it's got to be removed. And sometimes, many times, you need help in order to do that. So I'm so glad you brought that up. You can't do that alone. Sometimes you need the benefit. Support groups help too, but sometimes you need therapeutic intervention to to get that help and to get different messages. We need to hear different mantras all the time about that we are beautiful souls, we are amazing spiritual beings, and that the abuse and the neglect and the trauma, it affected us all, but there were parts of us it could not touch. There are parts of our souls that remain pure and resilient, infinitely pure, no matter what. And we have to reach into that, get to that part that's still there, that we learn in the ancient mystical wisdom that I learned about these 5 layers of the soul and the 5 layers of pleasure, that the abuse could never reach the highest levels. So it's still in there, it's still pure, and it reached to certain levels but not to all. So we need to give ourselves the joy that nourishes our soul, as well as removing the layers of garbage that were piled on top of your beautiful soul.
Yeah, a
Yes.
lot of women feel, when I talk to them, even like as mothers or wives, or even as adult daughters of aging parents, they feel if they set aside time for themselves or do something that brings them pleasure, that somehow That's bad. That's wrong. That's not a good mom. That's not a good wife. That I'm being selfish. I'm being, and so anyway, they have all this guilt associated with it. And what do you do in a situation like that? You're basically fighting yourself.
We can't give to others unless our cup is full. We just can't. We have to always be filling our cup. That's the only way that we could spill over and be able to give to other people. It's we do have to love ourselves in order to be able to love another. How can you appreciate another person if you can't appreciate yourself? So yes, it has to start with ourselves. And the way to do that, if people have been giving you negative messages since childhood, you got to really overpower those messages. You got to play over those tapes, over those nasty criticizing tapes, over and over. Just keep giving yourself all the joy that you need as a spiritual being. You're here. What I learned is that the purpose of life is to experience the greatest pleasure possible. Many of us did not learn that as children at all. This is the complete opposite. But what does the creator that designed us, what does a mother really wants for their child, a good mother wants for their child to experience the greatest pleasure possible in life. That's really what the Almighty that designed us wants for us, to be here to experience the greatest pleasure possible. Now, we all have challenges. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Challenges can be climbing a mountain, lifting a weight. It's not easy. And sometimes we have to lift really, really heavy weights. They're not easy at all. But these give us even more spiritual muscles. That's the whole thing. We have to, it's discomfort. It's discomfortable to be exercising with it, but it gives a really good feeling to be developing the spiritual muscles, like the gratitude muscles. We've got to develop them. And it ends up giving us ultimately the greatest joy in our lives.
Well, Bronca,
Yes.
do you have any suggestions for what do they call, like mantras, or things that you can say to yourself in meditation, to kind of give the ladies who are struggling with this issue a little head start?
If a person has a problem with overeating, or with any addiction, I find this helpful. I still use it to this day. To You could put it on your fridge or on your pantry. Is it my body that's hungry or my soul? It will remind you which part of me thinks I'm hungry right now, and that reminds you to do something joyful instead of just stuffing your face with the potato chips. It's like the potato chips just doesn't leave you feeling grateful afterwards. You usually feel more down after you've finished the binging
Hmm.
on something like that. You want to feel uplifted. How do you feel after you eat an apple? And if you're really hungry, say to myself, if I'm really hungry, I'll have an apple. I mean, instead of whatever else you were going to binge on. It's like, because if you're really hungry, believe it or not, an apple is very filling. It really is.
Oh yeah,
It's
especially those big ones.
That's
Wow.
right. It's designed that way because it's got the fiber and it's got the nutrition. All these other things, they don't have the nutrition that you need. So they actually drain the nutrition from you. That's another way they become addictive, because you're not getting what you need. So your body's telling you, I need more. I'm not getting anything that I value here. So give yourself the valuable foods. And then if you say, I'm sorry, I still feel hungry, go, okay, well, I'll dance a bit, or I'll call somebody, and then I'll see if in 20 minutes I'm still feeling hungry. Come back and see. See how you feel afterwards. See if you still feel that craving to fill the emptiness inside, or was it filled by a different type of joy that lasts even longer? And as you experiment, you're going to see just there's nothing to lose, only joy to gain. And I learned that it takes over 400 repetitions to develop to break a bad habit and create a new one. If you do it joyfully, just 10 repetitions and you've got it down. So do this joyfully. Just add more joy to your life and see how different if it stops those cravings for the addictive type of foods.
That would be very interesting. I can't wait to see how people do after they hear this and actually try some of these techniques and see how it works. I'm thinking too sometimes low self-esteem might have something to do with our dependence on food and this resultant depression. Do you agree?
And what to me, what low self-esteem means is not recognizing that you're an infinitely beautiful soul. You're a part of God. If you're a part of God, how low should your esteem be? Unless there are people that have negative views of God as like a tyrannical, angry God. I mean, that's not the benevolent type of Almighty that I'm talking about, and that's unfortunate, and that's also led to a lot of abusive behavior too. So the benevolent Almighty who designed us with infinite intelligence, that is what you are a part of. So you are this infinitely beautiful, uniquely beautiful person. So the more we recognize that we are essentially spiritual beings housed in physical bodies, that boosts our esteem immediately. We're a whole different kind of person then.
Yeah, because I see a lot of women write in, and they're essentially comparing themselves always to other people. So they're always feeling like they don't measure up. They're not as beautiful. Their figure's not as good. They're not as smart. They're not this. They don't have that. They can't get a boyfriend. They can't keep a husband. There's all these negative messages they're giving themselves. And
Right.
so their opinion of themselves goes down, down, down. So that's why I was, kind of seeing if you had any kind of ideas for what they could say to themselves instead of those negative messages.
Right. And the more joy you give, the more you will appreciate yourself. The more joy you give to yourself, the more you'll appreciate yourself because you become a person that is worth giving joy to, and you are making yourself that valuable person by giving yourself the joy that you may have been denied by other people. And the more you give it to yourself, the more you'll feel worthy of it because look, I'm a person that's getting joy now. So just keep it up with little things, even appreciating. And it doesn't mean going out, you have to buy great stuff to feel appreciated. This is really important. It means being grateful for what you have already. In the Talmud, we have an expression: who is rich? The person who's happy with what they have. That's it. It means valuing what you already have. Even a person that's incarcerated, and anyone that has an addiction is incarcerated. But it really, in jail, a person can still, the few things they have, they can become liberated through gratitude. That's how you liberate your soul, appreciating what you have. And if a person has low self-esteem, they feel, oh, what I have can't be valuable because I'm not worth anything. It changes everything. What you have is valuable and you're valuable. So start appreciating everything you have, and your own value will increase as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's kind of a little circle there, a circle of action. Well, tell us,
Yes.
Bracha, as we start nearing the end of this, one of the things I want to ask everybody who participates is to provide their own definition of what self love means.
Self-love. Well, to me, it's my definition of love is focusing on the virtues of another. So self-love is focusing on the virtues of yourself. List them. It may be hard for you. Try it. Keep going. Everybody has an unlimited amount of virtues, every single person. So so focus on them. It's so important, and that will increase your love and your joy.
So,
Yeah.
are there any other takeaways you want to leave them with? Really something punchy that you want them to take away from your presentation today?
I'll say this. When we're not here to see through each other. We're here to see each other through. We're all here to help each other. That's really our purpose in being here. You may have met people that knocked you down and didn't treat you right. They've gone really off course, and they probably were treated terribly by someone else. Change the course, and let's all be here to help each other through. Yeah.
That would be so great. That would be so wonderful. So, Bracha, tell everybody where they can find you and some more information about your books.
Really, all of my books can be found in bookstores, in libraries, and all in one place on my Amazon author page. So if you go there, you'll find 39 books. Most of them are for children, and the one book for adults. Yeah.
Well, that sounds really interesting. I wish I knew some kids that I could get one for, but alas, I don't know any little kidlets.
Yeah.
Oh well, but I'll definitely keep it in mind because they sound really interesting. Well, Bracha, thank you so much for coming and participating in Debruary.
You are wonderful, Deb. I thank you so much for what you're doing, helping so many people. Thank you.
Okay, I'll talk to you real soon.
Bye bye.